much more smoothly. Okay, so in terms of themes, one example which I always like talking about is maternal and child health. Within Indian context, this is an important theme, goes without saying. We have hand-picked few success stories here. So for instance, devices, fetal monitoring devices which can prevent stillbirths, devices for detecting neonatal jaundice, diagnostic platforms for neonatal sepsis, etc., etc. When broad themes like agriculture, CCAMP has supported these large portfolio of startups that are given below, and some of these are working the primary agriculture area, some of these are working on the allied agriculture area. So for instance, one particular story that I always like talking about is the third point. It's a startup named Sapio Health, which is started by a faculty member from the Bangalore Life Science Cluster. And the idea was that, what can you do for farmers which are using these pesticides on the field? Yes, we want to face pesticides in time, but till the time they are there, we should do something. So Professor Praveen Debula came up with this approach, basically a cream-like thing, which a farmer can put on their hands and on their forearms and all. Now, if they go into the field, the pesticide, even if it, let's say, comes in contact with the skin, will not be as harmless as it normally would be. And pesticide-related death is a big problem in this part of the world, goes without saying. The one theme that I was talking about was AMR, where CCAMP is playing an active role, is connected with many organizations. AMR, which stands for antimicrobial resistance, is basically a phenomena that the microbes that we are fighting on daily basis change on minute to second basis, right? So, for instance, let's say a person goes to a hospital, goes to a doctor with a throat infection, and doctor says, okay, this is clearly a bad infection and we should give you an antibiotic. And the patient does a 5-day course and is fully fine. A year later, the patient has the same infection, goes to the same doctor gives the same antibiotic, but now the antibiotic doesn't work because the bugs, the microbes, the bacteria is already resistant to this particular brand of antibiotic. Now, how do we go about solving this problem? The problem is not just the resistance part, it's also to do with this arsenal of antibiotics that we have, right? So the problem, as I listed, is that bacteria is changing very fast, making the existing antibiotics useless. But the bigger problem also is that the antibiotics that we have, the arsenal, the pool of antibiotics that we have is still fairly old. Identifying new antibiotics has always remained a challenge, especially over the last 30 years or so, where there hasn't hardly any been new class of antibiotic, new mechanism of action of antibiotic that has been discovered. Mostly new discoveries are candidates within the same classes of antibiotics that we already knew. So one of the CCAM supported startup named Bugworks is developing a new class of antibacterial agents, which is specifically aimed at targeting these own bacteria, which are already drug resistant to other classes of antibiotics. So aimed directly at that. And this is a remarkable feat. They are currently, doing phase 1 clinical trials for their study, and we are hoping that this would work out well. Other good thing which I would like to share about this particular startup is that they started their journey with us through the BIG program, for which we will now, shift to. And before I would hand over to Dr. Nitya to discuss more about the BIG program per se, I would like to make this sort of last call from our side that connect with us. As we have already supported over 300 startups or so through different grants and investments. So there is that experience of having supported and these opportunities of funding which are open to any innovator out there. We have built these deeper connections with different academic and industrial organizations which are open to all once they connect with us. CCAMP has this large pool of in-house and connected mentors. These 300 startups per se acts as mentors, and then there is this larger pool of specialists, domain knowledge, experts, etc. that CCAMP is connected with. All that knowledge is available for you once you connect. We have an in-house tech transfer office, which is always happy to offer support. Sorry. Yeah. Just give me a second. Sorry for this. And yes, so CCAMP has this in-house tech transfer office, which is open for support for anyone who's connecting with us. And besides this, CCAMP is located in Bangalore. There are so many benefits of being connected with the Bangalore innovation ecosystem. Bangalore is called as the biotech hub of India, biotech capital of India for a reason. And all these connects and resources that are here are available to you, whether you are in Bangalore or you are located anywhere but connected with us and hence connected with this ecosystem. So with this, I would like to request Dr. Nitya to take over and explain details about BIG program.
Thanks, Vishal. Thank you for the wonderful input. Just share my screen from my end. Right. So as Vishal mentioned, we are here to discuss a little bit about the Biotechnology Ignition Grant. So the grant is actually open from the 1st of July. And we would like you to utilize the entire ecosystem at CCAMP to have the best foot forward for your BIG grant scheme. So why is BIG exactly important? Because it actually undertakes an equal kind of an effort when it comes to innovation as well as the innovator. So when we look at the innovation, either you start as an individual or as a startup or as a company which is less than 5 years old, we have actually seen 4 growth spurts that actually happen through the journey until commercialization. Basically, you start with an idea and you start collating some scientific evidence in order to back up that idea. And then after that, you actually achieve something called as a proof of concept of the POC. So in the POC, what you're trying to tell is that you have done sufficient scientific evidences to actually prove that this can be scaled up and this can be taken up to the target audience that you are perceiving to be. After which you start developing a prototype, which can be a kind of a scale-up device that can actually go in for commercialization or can be called as an innovation at the end of the day. What usually happens is that people are very interested in the idea only after it is backed up by scientific evidence, that is post the proof of concept stage. However, the BIG grant actually assesses the stage which is extremely crucial to actually validate anything to the further steps, which is in the idea to POC stage. As far as the target audience that is concerned that can apply for the BIG, you can either be an individual or a group of individuals with an assigned project coordinator and a startup. So a startup which is usually less than 5 years old can apply. You can be from the academia or from the industry. If you are from the academia, you should be a graduate at the time of application. So by that, we mean you can be a senior student, you can be a PhD, you can be a postdoc, or the fact that you can be a faculty member who can avail the BIG grant. Going ahead, if you are from the industry, you can either be an employee, a founder, or a veteran. So the Biotechnology Ignition Grant is a scheme where the funding opportunity is up to 50 lakhs. So whatever is requested, whatever you request for is what you get. So basically, if you feel that 48 lakhs are enough for pursuing your idea, you will be given 48 lakhs and it is for the time duration of equal or less than 18 months. So you are probably, I mean, it depends. You have to gauge how much you need from your account. But at CCAMP, we kind of request you to have a milestone placed between, say, 14 to 18 months time. So basically, the idea is to establish the proof of concept and to encourage innovators to take their technologies closer to the market. Basically, what we see in the Biotechnology Ignition Grant is that it should benefit the society and it should have a strong commercial potential. The scope and the support of the BIG is usually not for people who are doing basic research. So by basic research, I mean, like, for example, if you have some sort of a scientific evidence to actually back you up, but not enough to actually make it into the proof of concept stage, you can apply for the BIG grant. Again, it is not for the extreme high end of the spectrum where you are going in for systemic clinical trials, late stage validation, field trials, or certification of technologies. you can avail up to 50 lakhs and request for not more than 18 months. Where you can utilize this entire 50 lakhs that you are requesting for is to cover patenting, the working capital, basically if you require any equipment, manpower, consumables. And then if you are associated with CCAMP, we request you to purchase the equipments that are not readily available as part of the incubation facilities. You can also pay for the people whom you are going to recruit as part of your team, and you can also use it for covering patenting costs. So the themes supported under the BIG usually are for startups that are into the life science domain. Even if you come from a non-science domain, that is, if you are a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer by profession, and you have some sort of a proposed solution that can have an intervention in, say, any of these fields of healthcare, agri, or industrial biotechnology, you can apply. So basically, the broader domains here are drugs, devices, diagnostics, agriculture, and industrial biotechnology. As part of the drugs domain, you can be working with biosimilars, drug formulations, vaccines, delivery systems. Devices can actually target either human or animal. You can also have a diagnostic component in that, where you are having a miniature device or any of those devices that can diagnose any of the neglected diseases or any critical diseases of the health domain. In the agriculture and industrial biotechnology, you can be part of secondary agriculture related ideas, waste management, clean energy, sanitation, and other areas. Now, also another arm that is actually integrated fast, quite potently into all of these themes is artificial intelligence, IoT, sensors, cloud computing, robotics, or automation. So basically, when you are applying to the BIG scheme, we like you to look at the thematic area as being the core of these 5, and the integrated arm would be IoT or AI, ML, etc., because those strategies are basically the add-on. They give you the technical competence to actually go through and deliver these thematic areas, right? Now, as far as the eligibility are concerned, if you are an individual who is going to apply, then you should ascertain, or a group of individuals basically, you should ascertain who would be the project coordinator. The project coordinator should be an Indian citizen. Primarily, people who claim themselves to be the project coordinator should hold a valid Indian passport. Therefore, OCIs cannot apply. You should be incubated in a recognized TBI. Now, if suppose you are not recognized, you are not associated with a recognized TBI, you can avail a letter of intent from CCAMP that actually comes with no bearing whatsoever. We just tell that you might look at CCAMP as a prospective incubator once you are awarded. So it is a decision that you will take on a later date, and the LOI from CCAMP will be generated within 48 hours. If you are a faculty member, we would request you to upload the NOC in the prescribed format. The format can be emailed to you, if you just request it to us. And if you are employed in a company, you must step down from the current position when you are awarded. So this declaration has to be uploaded as part of additional documents that is required. If you are a company, then you should not be more than 5 years old. 51% of the ownership should be held by resident Indians, and the project leader must be a shareholder in the applicant company. It is also mandatory that the individual applicants must not hold any shares in any biotech company, and no promoter of the company application should be a co-promoter of any other biotech company. So that being said, where does CCAMP actually help you nurture things forward is that we give you a 2-step line. So basically, I know you guys have a lot of experience in writing academic proposals, and therefore the technical aspect of the proposal might be clear from you guys. But then when you draft something for the BIG, there are 2 things that we see. So the drafting the grant as per the entrepreneurial or the commercial aspect should also be highlighted, and you should also present your idea as it is an innovation for the future. So let me just detail this. So any basic proposal for that matter actually has three basic aspects when you are entering into the entrepreneurial domain. So you have the scientific idea, you have the business plan, and then you have the team. Now, as far as the scientific idea is concerned, it basically encapsulates what, how, why, how are you intending to create the innovation. So just the general aspects, right? And then the business plan would be how, when, and where are you going to commercialize things. And the team would be basically identifying who will be able to develop and deliver the innovation. So this would be something on the lines of being a basic entrepreneurial proposal targeting life sciences. When you come to the good proposals, the scientific idea would have been curated as to deliver things on the need. Basically, what is the problem? How are you intending to have the proposed solution? What is the novelty aspect of it? What is the impact that it would be creating as far as the society is concerned? Whether it is scientifically feasible, and have you identified any competition that is already present in the market? It might be direct competitors or indirect competitors. Basically, as part of the business plan, we would like you to highlight who the user would be, who the buyer would be, what would be the market that you're trying to enter, and then the timeline. So basically the timeline as to, it can even include the BIG 18 months, followed by when you will be commercialization or when you see that sales will happen with that particular idea. When you have a team, you will have team members. So, and then you will need to require, you're required to have some scientific advisors or business advisors. Now, at the time of application, we do understand that because the business component may be a little difficult to actually wrap your heads around, the business advisors are not mandatory at the time of application, but then scientific advisors who can add merit to any technical bumps along the way have to be identified. So the scientific advisor can even be your PhD mentor or your master's mentor or anybody of that level, somebody who can actually cater to or add some technical aspects into your proposal. So these are the components of the BIG grant. I would be going through one by one in detail in the follow-up slide. So basically, when it comes to the project's proposal summary, what we would like you to highlight is what is the problem you're trying to solve, what is your proposed technology, how will it solve the problem mentioned. If in case you are looking at a medical device, something that is already present in the market, probably your idea can add some point of efficacy or efficiency of that particular device. It can be made more time sensitive. So basically, how is your solution actually providing an edge to the already present solutions in the market has to be highlighted as part of the proposal summary. Now, when it comes to competition, there might be currently available solutions already in the market, but bear in mind that when you are starting with the BIG grant, probably these can be competitions, but at the end of the BIG, they might turn into possible collaborators as well. When you are uploading the concept note, we would like you to highlight, basically it is a graphical representation or a illustration or something that can be easy to read of the proposal summary will be uploaded as part of the concept note. Now, when you're coming to the objectives, please highlight what sort of experiments would be done under each objective. By that, we do not mean, like, for example, you need not highlight how many microliters of EDTA you would use or something like that. We would just like you to pan out what experiments you have planned under each of the objectives and what would be the strategy and methodology. Why is it necessary for that objective to be part of the BIG grant? As far as the novelty is concerned, kindly establish the differentiation element of your proposal. So basically, we would like you to highlight the competitors in the market, a brief description as to what your strengths are, your drawbacks are, what would be, how would your technology cater to all of those proposed solutions? Basically, the same description elements might be the part of the competitors as well, but probably the readouts might be more efficient, it might be more time sensitive, etc. So all of those features have to be highlighted in the competitive landscape. Now, the opportunity segment of the proposal is basically business oriented. So we would like you to give you the numbers and the rough estimates, but precision in the opportunity segment is very important. What we mean by precision is, like, for example, if you are targeting female incontinence, that is one example I always go through. It is very clear that you are targeting the female, the female gender of the population in the society. But then when you look at the female incontinence, a little bit of research has to be done. What age group? So basically 35 years and above is basically the female age group. And then the tier 1 elements that hit the society are from the urban population and not from the rural, because there is some amount of social stigma actually associated with that. So the opportunity segment would actually highlight women above the age of 35, especially from the urban market. So that kind of an opportunity and clarity is actually required to understand the business numbers and the rough estimates. Now, as far as the challenges and the risk factors, we would like you to highlight if you require any ethical clearances. Say, for example, you are working on something on blood samples, you would require, a signed document from the patients, or human ethical clearance might be required from the hospital. And after the BIG grant, what sort of regulatory aspects are you kind of targeting? So if you are looking at a food related solution, you would need FSSAI regulations. If it is a device based segment, then it will be SEDISCO. If you're looking at a herbal formulation, it would be Ayush. And if you're looking at a chemical entity as being a drug molecule, it would be DGCI. So those kind of, clarity on certain aspects are required. We do understand that when you are starting off with the BIG scheme, there are lots to learn and there's lots to actually gather from your peers and everybody and the ecosystem here at CCAM. So at least if you have a clarity when you're drafting the proposal, that is looked at with a positive light. Preliminary work is actually not mandatory when it comes to the BIG scheme, but because of the increasing competitive nature of the BIG scheme, it is always better if you have some sort of a preliminary data, scientific representation to actually, show that the idea is actually feasible. So basically, when you are representing the data, we would like you to have the graphs and the images as per scientific evidences. So basically, if you have graphs, not just the X and the Y axis, but we also require you to have error bars, etc. If it is a magnification image, then the aptitude of magnification should also be mentioned, for example, 10x, 300x, etc. You will have to require, you will require a clear understanding of what your end outcome is, whether it is a product, whether it is a service, or whether it is a technology-based platform that you can license it out further. And then coming to the commercialization plan, basically, we would like you to target who the customers are. Like I said, if it is female incontinence, it would be the target population, or the customers would be urban women over the age of 35. And the market entry strategy is how will you sell? So basically, for every proposed solution, there would be a different market entry strategy. Some people would prefer a business to business approach, which is B2B. Some people would prefer a D2C approach, which is direct to customer, B2G, which is business to government. So you can also have like primary and secondary market entry strategies, saying that, first we will be going from business to business. So basically, if you have a medical device, you will be targeting the doctors in that particular segment, and then probably you can look at B2G segment in the future, right? So coming to the intellectual property, this is something that need not be done by professionals. And by professionals, I mean, you need not have a patent lawyer to actually validate whether the proposal is having an intellectual property, is IPable or not. So what we would like you to do is that have a web engine search being made. If you can have a list of existing related patents, and how your proposed solution actually is not a direct infringement of that particular patent. Now, if you have an indirect patent, say, for example, your molecule of interest is being targeted by any other health condition or disease condition, but not for the condition you are targeting, then you can have an explanation written in your proposal stating that, this would be an indirect patent infringement because, your proposed solution is to be validated in another health condition. Now, even if you have a direct patent infringement, please check which market it belongs to. So the patent, if it is generated in, say, Australia, you will still have a freedom to operate in India, US, and the European markets. Kindly cite very important papers that are very curated for your relevant references. It is not mandatory for each and every line of your proposal summary to be highlighted by a back reference. Now, when it comes to the team, as I said, you need to cover all the essential expertise needed for executing the project. Now, if you are applying as an individual, you can just say that you will be recruiting some team members in the future. And please highlight what your designation would be and what would be the educational qualification for actually undertaking a part of your journey. And as part of the scientific advisors, you can highlight your partnerships with other scientific advisors. You can also have people from the advisory role who can be, like I said, your PhD mentors or your master's thesis mentors, etc., can be scientific advisors. So this is basically the structure of the team. So you will have a project coordinator and then 1 or 2 team members. You will have a scientific advisor and a business advisor. So having a business advisor, you can always say that you are in talks with someone in order to finalize, or you're yet to finalize somebody on the business advisory role. This is basically the grading criteria when it comes to the BIG scheme. So most of the grading is given to what the idea is, what is the scientific merit behind the idea, whether this has a differentiation element, how it is having an edge with the present solutions in the market, etc. We will look at the strength and the passion of the team. So even if you're applying as an individual, we would look at the fact that whether you as a project coordinator can actually handle the R&D aspect of the proposed solution for the 18 months or less duration that you are asking for. When it comes to the business, one of the critical qualifiers is a commercialization potential. So basically what we are trying to do is that this is the critical element where a BIG does not align with academic grants. So we are looking at ideas that can actually generate sales in the near future, if not immediately after the BIG grant. So this is the budget. So as I said, you can utilize the 50 lakhs or less that you are requesting for under equipment manpower outsourcing. It can also pay your rentals, and have some amount of funds that are under contingency. So basically, these are the breakup under this. So for the manpower, a limit of the salary of, equal to or less than 50,000 a month is actually recommended. Equipment, manpower, and outsourcing cannot go beyond 30% of the total budget. There's no upper limit for consumables and rentals. Not more than 1.5 lakhs can be availed for IP and travel. And if you are requesting for 50 lakhs, then not more than 2.5 lakhs can be catered to for unforeseen expenses coming under contingency. So we would like you to have a timelines about the BIG scheme. So basically, if you have a milestone, if you have a timeline and activities, so basically your milestone, if you are asking for 18 months, we have divided into 6 months. Say, for example, you need a 4, 8, and 18 months kind of a thing. You can also do that. So the timelines is not mandatory to actually hold for 6 months. You will have to highlight whatever activities you are doing under each of these milestones. And please highlight what would be the deliverables and the outcomes for each of the milestone under the said activities. This grant royalty is actually a clause which is coming on commercialization. So 5% of the royalty has to be paid when you are commercialization. Like, for example, I had mentioned those 4 stages in the start. So you have the idea, POC, the product, and then you have the innovation that is hitting the market. So when you are generating sales, so if you are in the devices domain, you might take about 5 years till you see the sales of the product. If you are in the Agri and the IBT, probably lesser than 5 years. So whenever you are starting sales of the project, 5% of the royalty till it becomes equivalent to the grant and aid becomes active. And if in case you are not generating sales out of the BIG grant, then royalty does not apply to you. Okay. So this is basically the grant process. So from the close of the call till you know that you are awarded, it takes about 6 months time. So it is a long haul with us here at CCAM as far as the BIG proposal is concerned. Every step of the way is mentored and handholded for each of the applicant in a curated fashion. So you will have to upload an online application. No hard copies would be entertained. Following that, there will be an eligibility and the preliminary screening where we will see whether the applicant falls under the guidelines of the BIG, and also the fact that whether there is plagiarism, whether the thematic areas are selected correctly or not, for that matter. After that, there is a blinded online technical review that is being undertaken by 5 reviewers. Once you are recommended by the online panel, then you would be requested to actually present in front of the technical evaluation panel, after which you would get to know whether you are awarded or not. So basically what I'm trying to highlight here is that the online application that you're going to upload onto the portal will cater to about the major chunk of the grant procedure over here. Only in one of these steps will you be recommended to pitch in front of the panel members over here, right? After we know that you are awarded by BIRAC, we will be undertaking the technical and the financial due diligence, followed by funding, incubation, and mentoring for the next 18 months or so that you have requested for under the BIG. So coming back to this slide, what we wanted to highlight here is that the call was open from July 1st and the deadline is the August of 16th. The preferred date of the deadline by CCAMP is the 15th of August because the 16th of August sees a lot of traction onto the portal. So you know, the upload of the documents, etc., might take a longer time. And the deadline is 5:30 p.m. So kindly bear in mind that if you require LOIs, if you require NOCs, etc., they are in place prior to you start uploading whatever you are your proposed solution onto the portal. Another thing that we are catering to at CCAMP is that a draft of the proposal can actually be reviewed by the BIG expert team here at CCAMP, and curated feedback can be given to you. Again, we leave it to you because what we do is that the technical clarity of the proposals are usually evident amongst the proposals that we get for reviewing. But then from the eyes of the BIG scheme, there might be some nitty-gritty elements that may be missed out by the applicants. So we make sure that the whole application is actually wholesome in nature. So kindly given your, draft of the applications by the 14th so that we will have enough time to actually handhold you further. So kindly contact ccamp_big at ccamp.res.in for any further clarifications that you might need. Again, you can follow us on Twitter for all the dimensions of CCAMP that we are a part of. Thank you so much, and I'm now open to questions. Thanks. So if there are any questions, I see a few questions on the Q&A session. So you can go ahead and even, raise your hands on that, but then I'll check the Q&A box first. So Surek Kumar, is there any clear-cut general guidelines or regulations for the establishment of a company by the central government of Bihar? So, the thing is that it does not have any clear-cut or separate guidelines as such. You will have to go through all the guidelines as per the Startup India Commission. And also for the incorporation of the company, whatever guidelines are required, you will have to follow that. Again, after the BIG grant, it is not we leave it to you what your decision is when you want to start a company, either in the start of the BIG, through the BIG, or the end of the BIG. Thank you. Dr. Parvinder Singh, so we have already had a brief conversation with you when at the University of Agricultural Sciences. What we would like you to do is that as you already have a product that is ready to hit the market, I would request you to start looking at incorporation of your startup right away. Another thing what we can do here at CCAMP is that we can connect you with some of the agri-machinery companies that we have here at our portfolio, and then we can go ahead. So we would request you to kindly send us an email offline so that we can cater to the entire ambit that you are requesting for here. Thank you. Nandini asks, how long is funding supposed to sustain a company? Do you show a transition to independence within X number of years? Vishal, would you like to take that up?
Can you speak the question again?
Right. So Nandini's question is, how long is funding supposed to sustain a company? Is it assumed that companies meet their running costs on their own from the get-go? Or do you show a transition to independence within X number of years?
It depends on theme to theme.
We can't hear you, Vishal.
Can you hear me now? Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So it depends. There's no one fixed answer for all of them. I spoke about early stage funding, the mid stage funding, and the late stage funding. So clearly, funding or money to keep doing R&D or taking a product to the market is required at every stage. So that goes without saying. Not all areas would allow you to start generating revenues very early. So, for instance, if you are someone whose approach is going to be purely a tech transfer based, so for instance, let's say you're making a drug candidate, etc., you will eventually sell the things at the final step. So you need money till that step for everything, right? So there's no one answer for this. For more often than not, service style projects start raising some funds. Or if you are creating a version or you're creating a device, etc., where there will be multiple versions. And though you may be pitching all the modalities at the start, but you will release them in V1, V2, V3 order. So by the time your V3, your V1 and V2 are already in market, so you may be generating revenues. So this meeting the running costs, etc., it really varies from startup to startup. In life sciences in particular, things anywhere from 2 to 5 years is generally expected that you should be able to start projecting business more properly. Even if you do not have a business at hand, you should be able to project it a bit better. So that is also incorporated in the BIG plan, where Dr. Nitya spoke about that, there is a plan for 1 to 18 months, the BIG scheme part. But then you have to also talk about that, let's say if everything goes fine, when do you think this product will reach market? And that should be projected in this within next 2 to 5 years, more often than not. Drugs, vaccines, etc., it is understandable that will take time, trials, etc. But so for instance, in drugs and vaccines, are you willing to do a tech transfer and not do clinical trials on your own? Or do you intend to do phase 1 yourself and then look for a tie-up for phase 2, phase 3, or hand it over to someone else? All of these part of your business strategy and should show up in that plan. And these are all options. I mean, there's nothing set in stone at the moment, but it's good to know these options because that way you sort of project yourself as someone who understands what they're getting into it and should be supported therefore. Otherwise, you can always be someone who just, the science was good, but eventually there was nothing beyond that. It was just something of an exploratory thing. So that is something which BIG sort of looks hardly on, that you should not be seeing things purely for just exploring things, but rather creating things which will be commercialized. Nitya spoke at length on this. Was there any other part to this question? Sorry if I missed.
No, yeah, I think you've covered it. Not an issue.
If there is anything, please feel free to ask. Sorry, I missed the name.
Yeah, okay. So the next question is from Nitish. He says that he has developed an MVP which is not yet converted into any merchandise at this point. It is on vegan leather using fermentation technology. I would like to ask which funding program is best for me to apply.
Okay, would you like to take or shall I go?
Yeah, you can go. No issues.
So I would like you to back me up on this, but it will really depend on when you say MVP, are you still talking about a lab scale technology, something that you have done on a very small scale? So that would still qualify as POP, proof of principle, but not really a proof of concept. That a technology, a platform which can be scaled to meet, and this would be a technology that is needed at scale, right? You can't do things which would be some like the study that came out from UK, I assume, right? Where they made this vegan patty which was put into a burger. So more often than not, the technologies that have been touted at the moment are still at a lab stage. If you're pushing it to become sort of more commercial, industry friendly, then you would still have to re-establish this POC under those settings. So BIG is certainly a welcome tool for you. I am assuming you are individual at the moment. So as and Nitya spoke about that, there are very few schemes which generally support individuals at the very early stage, right? Majority of funding agencies or investors in particular are happy talking to startups, especially when they have done some bit of work and their idea does not appear as risky as purely, something that, oh, we should do this, right? So BIG is certainly an option for you. BIG also gives you two benefits. Well, there is the possibility of funding. If not, it also gives you sort of a view from these field experts, mentors, etc., to understand how good your idea is, and if not, what is it, what it lacks. So that ways you can reapply for this grant or apply for other grants using this grant or this entire procedure, this entire process as a preparation. So BIG, I would certainly say that it should be open for your idea also. Nitya, if you need to add.
Yeah, so just one input from my end, Nitish, like Vishal mentioned, if you have, like, for example, a lab scale technology and you're looking at scale up, probably the scale up factors, like, for example, if you have done something with 1 liter or 2 liter fermentation, you will have to scale it up to 50 liters and 100 liters. So that kind of can be your milestone 1, followed by some sort of R&D that is required to establish whether this MVP can be a merchandise at the end of BIG. So that is definitely doable. Thank you.
There's a hand raise.
Yeah, okay. Can you just unmute Varmura Parth, please? Yeah, Varmura, can you please go ahead with your question? You can unmute yourself and ask. Hello? Okay, we'll just wait for the... Okay, all right. So there's a question from Anup Kumar in the Q&A box. Who will help us for commercialization of our end outcomes? So basically, the ecosystem at CCAMP actually enables a lot of connects that you can utilize for commercialization of your outcomes. The thing is that as and when you are a part of the ecosystem here at CCAMP, you will know exactly how many different verticals under which you can commercialize. So when you are starting up with the BIG or any other grant scheme for that matter, you will have only one structured approach which you will be targeting. But then when you interact with the ecosystem here at CCAMP or individually from your side, you will know that there might be different other verticals and parallels that you can actually utilize with whatever outcome you have at hand at the moment. It is not usually, the case where you have to have the high-end output of your BIG grant to actually commercialize. So probably like Vishal mentioned earlier, the version 1 and version 2 of the products also can be generated as part of the revenue ecosystem of your startup or of your individual journey. Vishal, any inputs on that?
I think it's also important to, very rightly you pointed out, that who will help us. I think it also should be seen as a team building exercise, that within your team, you should look to have people either now or maybe later, people who can help you with this, right? So someone who will help you with business plan. The entire process should not just be science, and that's something which BIG focuses, keep refocusing again and again. That don't think of this as just a scientific problem. Yes, the problem that you're solving is using scientific method, but at the end of the day, it has to become a commercial entity. So one member or members of your team should be coming from those domains which have the business expertise or can help you in promoting business once it is set, right? So also look at this from team building exercise as a team building exercise. You don't have it right now, it's fine, but this within 18 months you should be thinking about, if you do get BIG grant, that who all can I employ or connect with or engage with, who will help me with doing this.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a person, Varmora Parth, can you hear us?
And there are a few more hand raise.
Okay, so probably we can go with Vishnu Anand. Kindly unmute yourself and ask the question. Vishnu Anand, can you hear us?
Actually, I'm not hearing.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
1 second, I'm just...
In the meantime, we can.
Hello.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not hearing you.
Okay. I think you will have to just reconnect.
Type your question and we will be happy to answer it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not hearing from you. I hope you can hear me.
So you can use the chat box if that's okay.
Someone can
Okay.
type in maybe.
So going with Jyoti's question, if we have an idea as an individual, how can we submit it? So basically the BIG grant caters to individual applicants as well as company applicants. So you will have to upload whatever data is required as part of being an individual applicant. If you do not have the entire data, I mean, if you don't or you are unaware of whatever data sets are actually required to upload the application, kindly email us. We will get back to you with the entire ambit of what is required as being an individual applicant. Thank you. Dr. Pradeep Joseph, I think he's also put a question in the Q&A box. If you can kindly unmute Dr. Pradeep Joseph. Yeah, Dr. Pradeep, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so one of the questions in the Q&A box is, will AI/ML based app for curing chronic diseases qualify for BIG? I would like to tell you that yes, it does, but there has to be a backing of technical evidences as well. AI/ML app, etc., is, you know, it can churn it forward and it can facilitate things forward. But then you need some sort of wet lab data also to collaborate or corroborate your results in the BIG. Probably AI/ML based app can be the core idea. We are okay with that, but then there has to be a dimension of collaboration also coming in from the wet lab angle as well.
When you say wet lab, I would just put one question. You see, for past 2.5 years, I've been doing this work, and I have more than 200 cases where I have taken care of the chronic diseases. Will that qualify as a wet, whatever data, sufficient data?
Yes, it does. So that can be part of your preliminary data when you are applying for the BIG. Make sure you highlight whatever essentials you have as part of the data you have already generated. And
Correct.
then based on that, you can actually go ahead for establishing the proof of concept.
Because one question is that, see, I'm an electrical engineer, okay, but I have been doing a lot of research on this particular area. So will that be an issue? Like you had mentioned that if you're an engineer, you can still do other work also. So that's what was.
No, you can come from very different backgrounds and then have a, proposed solution that has an intervention in any of the gaps and the needs you see as far as the life sciences market is concerned. Like, for example, we have one of the strong contenders in medical devices called Koyo Labs. They are a group of electrical engineers and mechanical engineers who actually put forth a device that are targeting pneumonia infections in ICUs. So, so basically, we look at the quality that you can offer to the project. It doesn't, I mean, even if you're coming, like, for example, if it is me and you give me your project, I will, although I come from a PhD biotechnology background, I will not be able to infuse any edge in your technology because I am completely unaware of the AI/ML module. Right?
Okay.
So if you have an edge and if you have an understanding of the entire technical aspect of the BIG grant with some understanding of what the commercialization potential is, you can apply for the BIG. Vishal, you have any inputs for Dr. Pradeep?
I think you mentioned this. I'll just rephrase it, that the minimal qualification is just a graduation in anything, not even science. Till the time you have an idea in life sciences, it's the idea that is welcome. By graduation, it basically means that you would be able to do things. That's it. So you are more than qualified, as Nitya pointed out. You are from science. You have done engineering, and whatever you're building, you're an expert in, right? That whatever you're building should aid in addressing a problem in life sciences, as you have listed out, curing chronic diseases. I think one of the points which Dr. Nitya was trying to make was, though the work that you have done will now become your preliminary data, which will allow you to pitch for the grant. But going forward, there should be an element where you are connecting with clinicians, which would be sort of experts in that area, so that they would be able to validate whatever you're saying is of value. If you have such connects now, great. If not, think about developing them as part of the BIG program. But you can certainly apply. You should apply.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pradeep.
Hello, Nitya.
Yeah,
Can you
can
hear
you
me?
hear us now?
Yeah, I can.
All right, please go ahead with your question, Vishnu.
Actually, when I was looking for this certification and the development of this program, I had discussed with some incubation centers. They told me like the whole certification process may cost around 20 lakhs for this product, for my idea. Okay, it's a biomedical product. So this cost of certification is included in this funding scheme, or is that from like any other programs for certification?
So basically, if you're looking at certifying the technology or the proposed solution, then you have already established the proof of concept is what we understand. Now, if you are about to, establish the proof of concept and then do something in certification, major core of the BIG grant, that is about 15 months of work, can be, utilized for developing the proof of concept, followed by some amount of fund for certification. So for basically, if you need ISO certifications or all of that, you can look at, say, submission of reports at the end of BIG grant. But if you are looking at utilizing about 20 lakhs of the fund exclusively for certification, considering that you have already established the proof of concept, then BIG grant may not be the right fit for you. Although what you can actually do is that, most of the people, even if they feel that they have achieved the proof of concept, they actually apply for the BIG grant because of the blinded review that happens, like I said, the online review that actually happens for all the applicants, basically. So, critical inputs are actually taken up by these online reviews, and then they, work on the proof of concept again. So what you think to be the proof of concept may not be the proof of concept as far as deployment is concerned, right? So what I would suggest is that you can cater to the BIG grant at the end stages for certifying of the technology, but I wouldn't discourage you from applying, because the BIG is the only domain where, you get critical feedback from about 5 to 13 experts who are, the domain experts from India, specifically for the thematic area that you are applying.
Actually, I just got this information from a company when I had a discussion. I didn't develop my proof of the document.
Okay, then you can go ahead with your idea. You can utilize the last 2 months of your project of the BIG grant to actually upload documentation that is required for certification.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vishnu.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So please explain a little more about the business plans of the BIG project. So basically, we do not want you to have a huge structure in place when it comes to the business plan. We would like you to have a critical understanding as to what the figures are, what are the rough estimates that you are targeting. So basically, when it comes to the business plan, we would like you to identify the core audience or the core target population that you are targeting. Like I said, I had mentioned one of the examples to be female incontinence. So the target population is actually very critical to be identified. That is, women above the age of 35, especially in the urban population, right? That is number one. Second aspect of the business plan that we would like you to have an idea is how are you going to enter the market? So for example, are you going to have a market enter strategy by, having alliances with other businesses already in the market, which is business to business? Are you going to allow me to purchase something directly? So then it will be business to customer. If you are going to have a combination of agencies from the government who are going to facilitate deployment to the general public, then it will be B2G. If it is something that you are going to directly come off the shelf, where people can actually purchase it without thinking twice about it, then it will be D2C, which is direct to consumer. So these are the things that we would like you to have some clarity on when you are applying for the BIG fund. Thank you for the question. Mohammed Zahid, what will be considered as POC for a proposal aiming to develop biological therapeutics? So basically, if you say that, I have this idea without any scientific backing to it, so scientific evidence to show that this can be doable is actually, basically like Vishal mentioned, something between idea to proof of principle has to be a part of this. So because you are going to get into therapeutics and it is a long process, we would like you to have some sort of preliminary data in place, which can validate this to be a prospective molecule of interest going forward. Right. And after that, whatever scientific validations are required to actually establish this to be an antibody of interest can come under the BIG grant. Vishal, do you want to include some here?
When you are aiming that as a biological therapeutic, an antibody, right? So there will be first sort of the target validation that whatever you're working on is of value. Second is the approach that you have chosen is working well, so either a clone or something. And third, some bit of characterization with a little bit of biological characterization and biochemistry, so affinity, etc. So that you have a viable candidate in mind. Not trials at this stage, but some bit of early stage, so cell culture studies, small animal studies, etc. That will constitute your POC. That all you can propose in BIG, but you should have a plan set out for everything later on also as part of the post BIG business plan.
Right. So Raja, can CCAM support research centers without BIRAC incubation? So CCAM does support research centers which are not bioness centers as well. So, I mean, if it is BIRAC incubation, I am hoping that you are targeting bioness centers. So we do support research centers. We look at it and we have a very curated approach to that. So, there are different verticals here at CCAM that actually work in a very integrated fashion. But then we pose it as to be, separate parallel dimensions here at CCAM because it is easy for you as a person of interest to actually navigate through things. So if there is anything specific that you require our support for, we request you to kindly email us. Thank you so much. Nishan Niranjan, working on a herbal antiviral solution, which strategy I need to follow for writing the proposal. So Nisha, basically, what we would like you to do is to include some sort of preliminary data into your application. The structure of the application remains the same. We would like you to highlight what is a proposal summary, a concept note, basically what is a novelty, how are you going to commercialize this in the future, etc. Also highlight basically what is a novelty element, what is the value proposition, how is your antiviral solution or herbal antiviral solution having an edge. Probably it can be, something on the, nitty-gritty of it with respect to composition, etc. However, when you are writing the BIG grant, we would like you to refrain from, telling us anything that is proprietary in nature. So, for example, if you're looking at herbal antiviral solutions, what usually happens is that composition of the solution matters at the end of the day. But what we would like you to help us do is to understand the solution that you are proposing better. So, for example, don't give us the exact name of the molecule or something like that, but at least give us the family of, the molecule or, some sort of chemical constituent of the molecule so that we will be able to gauge the proposal in a better light.
There are a few hand raised.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. 1 second. Yeah, Dr. Prakash, kindly unmute yourself, please.
Good afternoon, Nitya and Vishal. First of all, thank you for extending your support in my previous rounds.
Thank you.
Email from CCAMP that I can address the reviewers' comments and resubmit it again for the forthcoming call, and I also can apply for other seed fund in the CCAMP. So can you please suggest me, apart from these two, can I submit to some other funds, grants for my adjuvant immunotherapy, HIV adjuvant immunotherapy in monkeys, please?
So yes, you can. What we would like you to do is actually, see, just because you are applying for the BIG doesn't mean that you cannot apply elsewhere. But what we would like you to cater to is the fact that if you have been awarded a grant for the said milestones that you are projecting in the BIG, once you are awarded, you should ensure that the same objectives are not repeated in the BIG grant. and vice versa. So basically what we would like you to do is look at other grant funding options as well, which can sustain, your deliverables in parallel to BIG. That being said, we all know that BIG is already a long haul. It takes about 6 months time from the close of the call to getting to know that you're awarded or not. So during this time, there will be a lot of R&D probably that you will have to cater to further your interests in the proposed solution. So always bear in mind that just because you are applying for the BIG doesn't mean you cannot apply elsewhere. You can definitely apply to the other schemes as well. If you are a DPIIT recognized startup, you can actually look at the Startup India Seed Fund opportunity that we have here at CCAM. So as part of the early stage ideas that you are a part of, we have two dimensions here, the Startup India Seed Fund and the Biotechnology Ignition Grant, after which whatever we have options here are for the seed funding, which is against equity of your company. So that is one thing that we would like you to look at closely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right. So Raja says, I have a POC and a good result by in vitro studies for litosis. I'm sorry about not pronouncing it correctly. Is that enough to get fund for making a product? Yes, definitely. Please apply. If you have some sort of preliminary data which has been validated by in vitro or in vivo studies, kindly go ahead and apply. Thank you so much. Elizabeth, you mentioned that on the help of CCAM, could you please elaborate on the same? So basically what happens is that when people apply, like I said, they usually come from academic cohorts or non-entrepreneurial cohorts. So the nitty-gritty of the BIG grant as to what is expected in the BIG grant may be missed by certain applicants. So what we do is, even though you are giving us what you feel is foolproof, there might be some aspects that the BIG reviewers look at intently, and we will be reverting back to you with comments. So if you send us a final draft as per the template of that is requested by BIRAC, we will provide our inputs to you. Now, for example, if you do not have the template, kindly email us. We will get back to you with the template and any further documentation that you would require, inclusive of the LOI. Thank you so much. Preetidan is like, one of my project proposal has been selected for the final round, but around 1 year it's getting dragged for some reason. Can I apply for the same project under BIG grant? Preetidan, you can definitely go ahead and apply, but just make sure that in case you get awarded the ICAR grant, the milestones are not the same as the BIG grant. So you can tweak the milestones when you are projecting, when you're coming up or you are recommended to the TEP part of the BIG grant. So you can change the milestones then. But then when you are applying, if you have the same milestones that you have applied for the ICAR grant for, it is not an issue. Thank you so much. Yeah, kindly unmute Maumita Dhara, please. Yeah, Maumita, kindly unmute yourself and ask the question. Maumita, can you hear us? Okay. Just going ahead with Tejesh now. We'll just wait for Maumita's question. Tejesh, can you kindly unmute yourself?
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. Yeah, I have a product, so which is using already in abroad, UK and US. But this kind of product are not using in India, and unfortunately, we don't have that kind of guideline in ICMR. So how I can proceed to the ICMR, so make some guidelines or that kind of things.
Okay, so by meaning that your product is already in the US and the UK, is it your product that is already commercialized in US and UK, or a similar product that you are proposing in the BIG grant is already in the US and the UK?
Yes, right. And similar proposal I'm proposing to the BIG.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then is it in the, I mean, I'm just going ahead with it, but is it in the diagnostics or the devices space?
This is devices based, not diagnosis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And why exactly does ICMR doesn't have a regulation on that? That is quite unclear.
Because I am searching and contacting them, but they don't have such kind of guideline. So that's why I'm a little bit confused regarding that. And that product is very essential for everyone and daily use product. So that's why I'm just
Okay, so
confused.
what we would like you to do is, instead of looking at ICMR guidelines, we would actually, request you to look at DGCI guidelines as well. Because medical devices, if they are going in for commercialization in India, have to follow the guidelines from from
Yeah.
CIDSCO. Sorry, not DGCI, from CIDSCO. So you would have to look at the guidelines from CIDSCO to actually commercialize your product. But then when you're applying for the BIG grant, please ensure that you can, reflect some data by having these other, globally available competitors in the market. You can have them as global competitors, but please ensure that, at least the readouts or the efficacy of your proposed solution is on par or better than the global competitors. So if you can achieve that in your online proposal, I think you can go ahead and apply.
Okay.
Vishal?
And second thing, you said commercialize for that EP, so DGC.
No, it is
Or
CIDSCO. Sorry, not DGC. CIDSCO.
yeah, CIDSCO. Already my business advisor asked them, and they told us we need to be apply as a voluntary product. So though they don't have a listed product on that.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, there'll be regulations even if it is a voluntary product, right?
Okay.
So whatever R&D that is required to achieve that to be an voluntary device, that can be projected under the BI.
Okay.
Vishal, any inputs from your end?
Thank you.
The last point you touched upon, it's not very clear when you're saying product. Is the product already ready, or are you developing it? The product is ready.
This is a developing stage, sir.
Developing stage.
Because
yes, go ahead.
yeah, because they don't they have a monopoly regarding that. So that's why I'm studying a lot of things on around it, and we are developing some protos. And right now we are in that stage. We are through all the things. That stage we are right now.
There is R&D involved, and you are not really having a finished prototype in your hand. BIG is certainly applicable for you. The other thing which Nitya also touched upon, that whatever you're making, if it already exists outside, you still will have to justify that. If, let's say, tomorrow that company only comes to India and starts selling, why would people buy your product as opposed to them? Either you offer better efficiency tuned for this market, so you are making changes so that it is more applicable for Indian market, or you are offering nearly same functionalities but at a much lower price. Right. So in the competition slide, Nitya spoke about the two things which should be there. Either you are more effective or you are cheap, preferably both. Then you have a better solution than whatever anyone else is offering. Okay. So you will have to do some bit of this competition landscaping, that though there are things out there, there is no patent infringement, so you can make it. So there is FTO, as Nitya spoke about. There is freedom to operate. They can't stop you from making what you're making. And when you are ready, your product versus their product, what are your pros and cons? Okay. You can justify this, then there is a path ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Tejesh.
Yeah.
A question from Jyoti Arora. Kindly unmute yourself. Jyoti, can you hear us? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead with your question.
Ma'am, my question is that I have already posted in the chat that I have an idea. So it is basically to have the dry flowers and other things from the campus in the nearby and societies, and we transfer it to the different products, say like the face pack or some medicine likewise. So can I go with that idea to submit my project, because it is based on the IoT that give us an indication, okay, now right now the basket which you have run is a full and you can get in, take it out.
And what is the innovative aspect on this? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Innovative aspect is that all that trash or the dump that we are getting from the temples, which is basically the spoiling the rivers and everything. So we want to control that, and by getting this idea, and we are making it in a different products, so that we can utilize the waste product of the temples also.
Okay, and okay, so what you can do is that the end deliverable, whatever it is that you are looking at infusing this entire waste on, I think getting to that end deliverable will be very important as far as the BIG is concerned. Using IoT metrics to actually gather any data as to whether on collection strategies does not exactly look, I mean, or add any benefit to the end deliverable. So if you have the R&D completely established from the collection to the end deliverable, probably you can apply for the BIG.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. There is one question from Mudassir on the chat box. He's also raised his hand. So Mudassir, if you can unmute yourself. I'll just go through the question in the chat box for once. You're proposing an idea for identifying adulteration in some plant species and two components. I have already done some preliminary work for chromatography and not worked on the antibody-based part. Can I apply for both or one? Okay, Mudassir, there's an echo. 1 second. So, like I had mentioned, I mean, see, the thing is, why would you go for two elements in the same BIG grant is something that was unclear to me, and this I had already mentioned in the email. So why are you going for chromatogram and antibody? Is it a follow-on test in the same kit, or are you developing two kits?
We'll have the two partitions. One will be antibody based. So we have worked on chromatogram part, but antibody as developing them is costly.
Is the readout in the chromatogram not clear that you want to go ahead with antibody? I kind of missed your response, Mudassir. Hello? Hello? Okay, we can't hear you, Mudassir, but if you can hear us, what we would like you to do is that please let us know why.
That is why we want to float the proposal for the big to fund it, so that we can get the funds and work on this. Let me explain to you. Basically, there are two components of the plant, which is to find out whether those components are present, components. In you have to make sure that this genuine product.
So what I'm trying to analyze is that, see, you have a chromatogram readout that actually gives you whether the adulteration of the plant species is there or no, right? So what would be the input from the antibody-based part also? Is it going to be the same output as the chromatogram, or is it going to be a different output? Hello? Hello?
Component which will be based on the basically TLC based, which will give us plant or not. Maybe that plant has been adulterated, we call as a complete kit to identify.
Okay, so actually the thing is, a kit can have two parts. If you're having a chromatograph-based readout as well as an antibody-based readout. But if you're going to pool both of these components in a single kit, it should be highlighted in very detail as to what would be the input from the chromatogram-based readout as well as the antibody-based readout. Another issue that I see over here is that the way you actually run the kit for the chromatogram-based readout and the antibody readout, the technical aspect of that is very different. Right, the mobile solvent and all of that, whatever is the input, and is there any how are you, is it the same input of the plant species that you're going for both of these? Otherwise this can be two different projects as such. I mean, if there is no additional input coming from the you already have the readout from the chromatogram. If there is no additional input from the antibody based part, then these can be two different proposals. My main thing where I couldn't understand this is the fact that if you are going to increase both of these technically challenging aspects, which may not be mutually feasible to be incorporated in the same kit, why is it that you need both of these aspects in the same kit? Vishal, any inputs?
The audio is
Yes,
very
sir.
clear. We can talk to Mudassir.
Yeah, so Mudassir, what we'll do is we'll connect with you offline. I have already given you inputs via email,
Yes,
so probably we can connect with you offline. We're also facing some issues with with the internet as well. Okay, so we'll make sure we'll give you a call probably by EOD today or tomorrow morning. Thanks. Vishnu Anand says, I have taken a provisional patent for my idea in 2018. I'm going in for the patent in 2022. Does it give any consideration? So if you do have a provisional patent at hand, it is not mandatory to have a patent when you're applying for the BIG, but then it's definitely something that is looked on the positive side if you already have, a patent already in your name. Provisional patents are usually, valid for about a year or so. So kindly look into that before you are applying. Thank you. Right. So no further questions in the Q&A box. So if there is anybody else who wants to ask a question, kindly raise your hand. Yeah, Balachandran Sitaram. Please go ahead with your question.
Oops. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi. So you mentioned something about the AI/ML. I couldn't kind of get that entire this one. What are the kind of key evidence that we would need to demonstrate for AI/ML solution in the area of healthcare? So you kind of mentioned that it was very quick, and this one I just couldn't follow that. Do you mind repeating that?
So basically, when you're applying for the BIG scheme, the 5 thematic areas is what you can apply for. So there's drugs, there's devices, there's diagnostics, there's agri, and there's IBT, right?
Right.
So what happens is AI/ML or IoT-based strategy, big data-based strategy is actually something that propels the proposed solution in these 5 thematic areas forward.
Right.
But as far as in order to make it hit the end targeted customer or something like that, you will need some amount of infusion of either previously generated AI/ML data or some wet lab studies to actually show that AI/ML module can actually further the the impact of this proposed solution, either with efficacy or with the entire data generation or something like that.
Got it.
So basically, it can be an additional wheel onto or one of the wheels in your proposed solution. But then if you're going for a pure core AI/ML module, even that is doable in the BIG. We would like to know how it has a direct impact on the target audience that you are looking at.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thank you so much.
I think all are done.
Yeah. So if there are no further, we'll just wait for a couple of minutes if there are any further questions.
There are few hand raised again from Vishnu and Balachandran.
Yeah. So Vishnu and Balachandran, if the questions are not, addressed to, probably you can lower your hands. Otherwise, we can unmute you. Okay. Please go ahead with the question, Vishnu. Kindly unmute yourself.
Actually, like you said, my product is also in the part of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the CCAM provides any kind of technical support in the field of this AI.
We would like you to connect with us offline because AI/ML based strategy is actually very vast, and the data set and the data analytics that are involved in that is also very, very curated actually. So if you could just email us as to what exactly you require as to propose your AI/ML based module, we can see how we can help you further.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Balachandran, kindly unmute yourself, please.
Okay, you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so I think my fundamental question, which I kind of raised for Deepa as well, is if the disbursement takes 6 months, it's not that we kind of are sitting there waiting for the money to come in, right? We continue the development, right?
Correct.
So what Deepa mentioned to me is that we cannot obviously claim the money that is already spent in the past. And if, let's say, our POC target is about 12 months or 14 months, how do we then sustain would they actually continue to fund us for that 12 or 14 months again from after 6 months? I mean, I'm just saying, because if our expenditure, which we are doing, putting it for 12 months, and the money comes after 6 months, would they still continue to give us the money for the 12 months? That's a question that's there.
Okay, so basically, that's why we always tell you at CCAM that irrespective of whether you are applying, you're applying for BIG or you have been awarded BIG, kindly please look at additional funds always coming in. Basically, because we have always seen that a financial cushion always helps startups to actually propel one or more verticals in the same timeline that they are looking at. Okay, that is number one. Second thing is, as far as the milestones of the BIG is concerned, you will be given, the financial support to propel the milestones up, proposed under the BIG forward. Now, if suppose you have already achieved some of the milestone, like probably milestone 1 or something under the BIG, prior to the TEP or prior to the agreement signing, we will not be able to disburse funds for the milestone 1. Although you can actually have another milestone in place so that, the propelling of the idea or the proposed technology forward is going on in the right stream.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, I think I'll kind of connect with you also for further, because I'm also Bangalore based.
No
I'll
issues.
definitely be.
Yeah. If you are from Bangalore, you can actually walk into CCAM. We have no issues.
Yeah, at the other end of the town, that's the challenge.
Oh, okay. Then we'll connect over phone or anything.
Yeah.
Not an issue.
Thank you, Nitya.
Thank you. Thank you. Raja says, I need some animal studies. Can you suggest some good incubation center in Tamil Nadu? So, Raja, we would require some inputs on your end, or what sort of animal studies and for what sort of a milestone that you're trying to establish. What is the core R&D that you're looking forward to do as part of the animal studies concerned? We do have connects in Tamil Nadu who can facilitate animal studies, but again, we would like to know what animal, etc. We would also we will give you connects pan India actually for facilitating this. So if you could just write an email to ccam_BIG, we can facilitate a connect. Thank you. Ravi, right. So Ravi says, do you support AI/ML in screening, diagnosis, prognosis, and management of diseases? Yes, we do. If you can have a direct implication to the target audience, you can definitely, we definitely support, and we can help you guide your idea forward. Bhaskar, please let me know if there is a limit on the number of people who can be hired. Who will decide the qualifications and pay? Can students be hired as paid interns? Thank you. So basically, the limit on the number of people is actually the limit on how much you can pay them. Also, how much of the budget you can actually allocate for manpower, etc. This being an entrepreneurship grant, you need not follow the DST and the DBT norms. Like, for example, if it is a JRF, you will have to pay about 32K. If it is a DPT or DST project, you can actually pay more or less than the DBT, DST norms. That is number one. Second thing is, who will decide the qualifications and pay? The project coordinator is requested to decide on the qualifications and pay. But please make sure that if it is, like, for example, if you're looking at a AIML proposal or an agri-based proposal, you do not have a qualification of a PhD who has done something in cancer biology. You need to have qualifications of the personnel who can actually add merit to your proposed solution. Can students be hired as paid interns? Yes, they can. You can also have interns who are not paid and then facilitate some working in the BIG as well. So the entire manpower is left to the project coordinator to decide as to how you're going ahead with it. Thank you. RCCH, you've also raised your hand, so kindly unmute yourself. Does BIG provide allocation of funds towards founder's salary? If yes, what is the lower range and upper range a founder can draw salary towards personal expenses or sweat equity? Right. So BIG does not provide allocation of funds for personal expenses. It is always for personnel who are adding a benefit to the R&D component of the fund allocation. Basically, sometimes we have also seen that the founders do not have or avail the salary from the BIG grant because it is much more important for the manpower who are included in thrusting the R&D forward to be paid. So you will have to take the call at the end of the day. There is no lower range for anyone to claim salary or expenses. Any personnel who is going to be salaried under BIG cannot be paid more than 50,000 per month through the 18 months of duration. That is the only upper limit we have. And scientific advisors are not a monetary, do not have a monetary benefit out of BIG. Vishal, any inputs from your side?
Covered. I think I was saying in the last question where someone had asked students being paid interns. So I think one thing should be clarified, that the work that they're doing in this should not go into their thesis, right?
Yeah. So basically, interns can come for experience and not for having like a thesis, or it cannot be part of their bachelor's or their master's thesis. Basically, they can come in for experience. Right. We'll give it a couple of minutes. I don't have any open questions or any hands. So for the ones who are attending the session, we request you to send a draft of the proposal as per the format of the BIG to ccamp_BIG@ccamp.res.in. In case you do not have the user guide at your disposal, or you do not have the format for the LOI or for the, format for the NOC, or you are requesting for an LOI, kindly email the same email ID. We will revert back to you at the earliest. We do not take more than, say, a couple of hours to actually revert back to you. For LOI generation, we will actually require about 48 hours. We usually do it within 24, but 48 working hours is what we request for. All right. So thank you everyone for having the session. Closing remarks by Debashini.
Hi, Nitya and Vishal and Surender from Blisk, Deepa as well. Firstly, thank you to all the participants who joined today's session. And I think we had more than 100 people joining in, so it was good full house session. And I hope your queries were answered. And as Nitya and Vishal mentioned, please do get in touch with us to carry forward the discussion, and we look forward to helping you crack big as well. And with that, I'll just say thanks to Surender from NCPS Comms office for helping us with today's webinar, and that's it. So
Right.
good afternoon,
Thank
everybody.
you everyone for investing your time and your mornings with us. It was a wonderful session interacting with everyone. Thanks Debashni, thanks Surinder for facilitating the entire thing. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.